Yeah, well, good morning, everybody, and good to be back, and big week. Good luck to the football team. I know this is a big one and exciting, and the coal rush and everything with that. So excited for those guys and the opportunity in front of them and the environment and the excitement around. I think the athletic department is still at a pretty all-time high here, at least in my short tenure, and hopefully we just kind of can continue getting a little bit better. We had our best practice of the year yesterday. Trying to figure out why. I don't know. They had a day and a half off or why their energy was so good, but our pace of play was great. And again, I wish I knew, but we'll see if we can kind of start to duplicate them or put some back to back. That would kind of be the next challenge for us, is to build off of that one. But yeah, we scrimmaged a little bit against each other on Saturday, so we got to watch film from that yesterday before practice, so that might have helped. We got to point out some things we needed to clean up, so maybe they took that to heart and got a little bit better. But yeah, again, we were really good yesterday, and we'll continue to build on that. We have one of those secret scrimmages next Friday, so not quite there probably mentally where we can think about that, but it is on the horizon, so that I think keeps us motivated as well, and wanting to get a little bit better. Obviously, the poll came out, which you may be asking about at some point, and preseason picked 5th, and of course JJ was on the first team and unanimous this year, so that was well deserved for her. And the 5th ranking is, it's okay. I thought we'd be somewhere in the ballpark, maybe a little higher, but either way, it's an okay place to start, and we'll go with it and see if we can't prove some people wrong when it's all said and done. So that's all I got.
You got that one first place vote that you were talking about.
Yeah, we did get the one first place vote. May or may not know who that was, but either way, I guess somebody at least thinks that we have a chance to be pretty good, and there's more that probably do as well. But yeah, you get the little number by your name. That's always, whether it's after, I guess, in front. When you get rankings, those are usually pretty good signs.
You have a guess?
Yeah, I know. I'm not going to tell you, but I do know.
All right.
With this super secret scrimmage, I know you can't talk a lot about it, but what do you want to see? I know the coaches can kind of set it up to get things that you need to see, the looks and stuff. What do you need to see that you don't get in practice right now with your guys?
Well, really just you want to see the competitive juices when the lights are on, so to speak, like who can kind of, step up and do it. We see it enough, and we have a pretty good evaluation, I think, through practice on who that will be. But it's just different when you play somebody else. The speed of the game typically can change. We have the male practice players, though, that we did scrimmage against a little bit on Saturday, and so that always revs you up, and they're touching our passes and, things that you get away with. Sometimes you can't. And then just to see a different look, because they'll do things differently than what we do. When you're going against each other every day and running kind of the same stuff, it kind of gets a little bit hard to, to gauge it at times. And so, yeah, we'll have a quality opponent and get a bunch of different looks and see the kids play.
Coach, can you give us a little bit of zone?
No, we don't do that. Not very often. Now, maybe on the back end, that's what those scrimmages are for, where you could say, like, oh, hey, we didn't get to see enough of this. Coach, can you give me a few minutes of this? Or we want these players to get a few more minutes. Can we add another? But the officials kind of started throwing a fit a little bit, too, about that, because they end up staying longer, and they don't want to stay that long. And so we've had to kind of juggle that one as well a little bit, is dealing with officials and them end up staying for 3 or 4 hours, because coaches could keep going a little while if you let us, but it won't be that long for us. But and I haven't talked to Coach yet either to see what we want to do, because you can build it. Sometimes we may do like half-court possessions before we get started just to work on it, and then you'll play like a full game, and then there may be even like some situation, 7 seconds left, it's a free throw situation, you want to work on your call timeout to advance stuff, like we can even, get to that type of stuff on the back end if we choose.
Why not? It's a great opportunity. There's a lot of things you can get accomplished.
You can, yeah. We've done all sorts of we've done things where you just start like with a half court, and then you go a full court and come back in a full court and then stop it there. We've run, let's just play man for these 5, and this team takes 5 possessions against your man, and then you flip. So you can work on baseline out of bounds offense and defense. You can really, really break it down however you want, and so it will probably just be up to the coaches to kind of decide what they need. We need to play and compete probably above all else, but then there are some of those situations that come in handy.
Last thing, I know we asked Darren about it last week. Afterward, do you kind of get with the coach and just kind of agree on what you're going to let out there? Is that how you go about it, or do you just kind of
let out? You mean on the back end of it, or
we're going to ask you questions about it?
Yeah, no. Typically, it's pretty close to the vest. Obviously, we don't send out the films; those are always guaranteed that we're not going to share video and those types of things. Scouts, who starts, it's pretty. I mean, I think at least in the women's game, it's pretty well, I think, kept under wraps. I don't know everything that other teams give out, but typically coaches are pretty, want it pretty closed.
Okay.
So you said best practice in the preseason the other day. So constitute in your mind, what makes it the best practice? Is it just energy? Because if the offense is good, maybe the defense is bad, or vice versa. So what do you view as making it the best practice?
Yeah, well, probably a lot of things would fall into that criteria. We did play against our guys yesterday quite a bit, so it's one-sided as opposed to two-sided. When you play against each other, you're not always going to be happy because there's an issue. So we did get to play more against the guys. We actually have on Mondays and Wednesdays, Fridays, we have a better male practice team because their classes are a little bit better. So Tuesday, Thursday, we go against each other a little bit more. And so that may have something to do with it. But their energy was fantastic. May have had something to do with the day and a half off. We had practiced Saturday morning, and then they had all day Saturday. And then Sunday, and we had been pretty busy with recruiting and things like that every weekend, so it was probably nice for them to have a day and a half just to mentally recover. We've been healthy, but I think we feel pretty good right now too. I think that physically had something to do with it, but we played at a different pace, and maybe all of that had something to do with it. We weren't worried about the officiating or getting hit or the guys knocking us or somebody got scratched. And sometimes, when you get bored, like those things start to rear their ugly heads and you focus on the things that you shouldn't. And I just thought we just competed yesterday, played at a high pace and at a high rate, and we shot the ball well. We tweaked a few things offensively, and so I think they liked that. I think that felt good to them. So yeah, it came together.
Coach, with your full court press last year, like obviously throughout, as the season went on, there were things you could kind of tweak and change. But now that all your opponents have it on film now, so year 2 of the full court press, are there changes, or do you tweak it more, or just how does it evolve, I guess, in year 2?
Yeah, well, it evolves. It's always personnel based, so some of the personnel didn't change, and they're pretty good, so that they'll still be pretty good at it just because of who they are. But it's and it happens throughout the year. It's not necessarily even one year to the next as much as, okay, well, teams are going to pick up on it, so they're going to counter with this, and then our job is to counter to whatever they counter with. And so it's that back and forth. That's coaching 101. That's the fun part of it. So the basic structure stays the same. We don't teach it any different every year. I do say it takes on a life of its own based on the kids that you have and, the type of defenders they are. There's still a mindset that we do instill, but then it takes on a life of its own based on the players. So, Jordan and JJ will still be up there at the front of it, and that's not going to be a whole lot of fun for some teams. But, Sydney Shaw's come a long way. Sydney Woodley, who's the Long Beach State transfer, who had like 100-plus steals a year ago. I mean, that kid yesterday was touching every single pass, it felt like, in practice. So she's done some good stuff on the defensive end. So you just have some players that can set the tone. We've even put Kaya Watson up there some this year, and that motor and that length and activity has been kind of nice and refreshing too. So I think we just have options. So that's one way. We're a little deeper. We got a little better rotation, I think, coming, so we can keep people a little more fresh. So we'll do that, and there'll just be an X and O battle with the opposing coaches.
I was going to say, it sounds like a chess match.
It is 100%. Yeah, it's always a chess match. That's what this is. And with the press, different presses, and that's another thing though. We got to be careful because we'll run our press against it, and that looks a certain way, and then we'll go play somebody else, and they're not going to run our press. So that's where again our guys come in handy because they'll just kind of be all over the place, and so it just gives us a different look.
It could be a bigger impact this year. I mean, because obviously everyone's experienced. Well, not everyone, but the majority of the guys have done it now.
Yeah, is it a bigger impact? I don't know. It'll probably depend game to game. It will be, again, part of our identity. We should win that turnover battle on most nights. We should have a lot of steals. If they're in the open floor, that can lead to some really good offensive opportunities. We got to be better in the half court, though, so that's something we've talked about and worked on and looked at over the summer. So, yeah, it'll look about the same, I think, with a few subtle adjustments here and there.
A little bit on Sydney Shaw. You mentioned her, but background seems very offensively oriented. Can she fit into what you want defensively, and how good has she been offensively?
Yeah, offensively, she's been about what we've wanted her to be, maybe even a little bit better, to be completely honest. And I've talked about her efficiency a little bit and just getting her to take the right shots, but she's a very skilled offensive player without question. Defensive, we've had to challenge her a little bit here and there, and that's still some of her goals is just to, be a little bit better, but there's no limit, like physically, athletically, it's all like she can do it. It's just a mindset, and we're just trying to help her with that mindset to just get on the same wavelength as our expectations. And she's been fine. She completely understands it. But we've had some good conversations, and we've been able to get after her too at the same time, and she responds each and every time. So I'm really thrilled with where she is right now.
Just curious. Oh, go ahead.
You do have a second close scrimmage later in the month. Okay.
We do.
Has that been your pattern to do 2 close scrimmages pretty much throughout your career?
Yeah, for the most part, I think I've only done 1 exhibition maybe in my entire career. I've just felt like we've been able to get more because of the things we've already talked about, the late game situations or half court possessions, the full game. You can add another quarter. If you do an exhibition, you're just playing a game. Now you miss the lights being on and running out there and going through that routine, so that's what we give up. But I've always felt the advantage of getting to do a little bit more with a close scrimmage seemed to help us more than an exhibition.
Question about chemistry. And just in the short time that you've been here and I've got to know you a little bit, you're very intentional about who's in your program, how you build your team, and it's not just about good players, but it's the right good players. Talk about that a little bit. Where did that come from, and where does that rank in your, list of importance?
Yeah, well, I think it's part of whatever your coaching personality and identity is, like me, and then I want to surround myself with those types of people. So I think character creates culture, right? I don't think like we all use culture and we use family, but I think character is what creates those things. And so when you have a disagreement with your family, if you have great character, you'll work through that. And I think there's some coaches that kind of relish in creating chaos, or they want chaos in their program. If they don't have it, they'll create it. And that's never been me. I've been much more of the consistent guy. Let's show up. Let's do the right thing. If there's conflict, we'll deal with it. But why are we creating conflict for no reason, right? And so let's not have to spend our time working on that or dealing with those issues. And let's really, truly, just work on the things that we can, which is our relationships, helping these kids achieve the dreams and goals that they have and hold them accountable in the classroom. And if they'll do those things, then then it works out pretty well. But yeah, it's finding the right kids that fit, that do the right things. Low maintenance, I use that term all the time, but I thought last year we were as low maintenance as any team that I had, and those are like, I didn't have off the court issues. I wasn't getting 2 a.m. phone calls because they were doing those things. Their character was really good, so I didn't worry about them after that. When we had them in the office, it was to talk about how they were doing and how I could help them on the basketball court. It wasn't, hey, you're not living up to this standard. So we have a few things here and there, but nothing that I would put in the big picture.
With the nucleus of this team, though, when you were starting to figure out, okay, these are the things I need to piece around them, in the back of your mind, you're saying, just don't bring anybody that's going to screw this up. I mean, we need things that help what we got and supplement it, but because you've got that good, strong nucleus of players.
Yeah, I think you do more now. When I first got here, you didn't know what you were, the strength of the team is how you figure out what you can bring into it. So you might have one that you can't quite figure out their personality or do they fit in, but if your nucleus is really strong, well, they're not going to have a choice. You're going to come in and get along or you're going to be extradited pretty quick. But we haven't even really had to do that. I think if we vet it the right way and through a recruiting process, you learn about these kids and their families, which ones probably fit our culture, and it's those that have the high character and do the right things and, go to class, understand the value of that. And, we've got our little pillars, to the program. So as long as they kind of understand those and align with them, then we're in a good spot.
One more on that. I know there are some coaches that are apprehensive about having a full roster. Players 13, 14, 15, sometimes, they want to play, they don't get to play, and then you got to deal with that. Where do you fall there?
Yeah, well, no, there's both sides. I've said a year ago we only had 10, 11 players. It was pretty much everybody knew who was going to play and probably how many minutes you were going to get, and the roles were defined, and it was pretty easy. This year we have 14. I told them at our team retreat last weekend, not this weekend, the weekend before, that, hey, you're not all playing. I'm sorry. Like, I don't know who yet, and I'm not defining that today, but I just want you guys to start looking around the room and realize there's 14 of you in here, and we are not probably playing 14 on most nights. If we can get to 10, that's ideal. For sure. I mean, we want to play 10 every night throughout the entire season. We could shorten that a little bit late in the year if we need to, but 10 night in and night out. Score might dictate 11 and 12 or foul trouble, but 10 for sure. So there's 4 of you that may or may not get to play. I think in my mind, and I'm not going to give you the tiers, but I've got them into like about 4 tiers right now. I got probably about 7 of them that like, yep, all right, you're in. You got a role. It's established. Call it your bank account. Their bank account's pretty significant right now. There's probably 2 in the next tier that, okay, like I'm counting on you. I haven't quite figured all of this out yet. And then I think I got 3 in the next tier, and then maybe 2 that are you're just not quite there yet. So let's keep working and let's see if we can't keep bumping and moving the tiers, and that's all fine. And over the next month, we'll start to kind of probably figure it out a little.
You've got to always be mindful of that, right?
Always. Yeah. And so and then once you get that kind of figured out, now it becomes combinations. So now who plays well together? What's the rotation going to look like? Are we going to move people around? Do we have them in the right spots? Who starts to play better? So, and I've told them this numerous times, I'm looking for some separation right now. Some of these guys need to start separating themselves, and I've maybe said this last week, but I don't determine playing time. I get the final say, but they're the ones that determine this. So how they practice, we stat it all. We've got the numbers, we've got the metrics, so we know who's doing what.
The funny thing, and kind of going way off you're saying there, when you got a chance to know Coach Carey a little bit last year, when he was here, and it was almost always like clockwork. Years where he would have 14, 15, like Johnson, players would get ticked off and transfer. So he would try to cut it short, 10 or 11. Well, then he'd get 4 or 5 injuries, and it just seemed like it always worked like that for him. And so I'm kind of wondering, going to the higher number, is it 4 injuries?
Well, it can be. We actually had that same number a year ago. We just had injury. We had 2 season-ending injuries early, and then it got down, and then we had one that left it, at semester. So we quickly got down to 11 just like that. So it really wasn't. We didn't really start it any different than a year ago. It just, because of injuries, worked itself out. So 13 or 14 is my number every year. We get 15 in women's basketball. That's probably honestly a little too many to keep happy. 14 can be too. Back in the day, we would redshirt kids, so we could redshirt 13 and 14, and then you were really just working with 12, and that was okay. A lot of these kids now don't really want to redshirt a whole lot, so we don't have that conversation quite as much. Doesn't mean we can't, but doesn't happen. It doesn't seem quite as much in our sport right now. But yeah, we'll manage it. It's just we got to communicate better and more often, so these kids know exactly where they are.
So with that, no redshirt opportunities this year, other than maybe a medical if that would arise, but you don't think of like a true freshman redshirt like the old days?
I wouldn't say it's not on the table. Everything I think is on the table. I'm not at this point. No, I'm not having any interest in having that conversation today, but we got a month plus to go, and I want every kid to get to feel like they had equal opportunity to kind of showcase their skill set before we were to make that decision. And they can play now in those scrimmage games too, and it not count. For years we couldn't even do that in basketball, so they can play in those if that helps us at all. That gives us a little extra look. So we got a little while. We got till November 5th.
Coach, you're obviously JJ is well known around here. She's been Big 12 first team many times, preseason, postseason. So obviously people in the Big 12 know her. But on a national basis, do you think people are just now starting to realize, who JJ Quinterly is, or maybe they don't know yet? I don't know.
Yes, I think it's a little bit of both, but I do think, her name has some recognition now. We're working on that. We need to promote her. She needs to promote herself. I've said for a long time she's an unassuming superstar, and that's fantastic at times, and then can be a detriment a little bit too, because she's not a huge social media person. That's not her personality. She's sure talented enough. I think we opened up some eyes as a group a year ago. Of course, when we did that, JJ was a huge piece of that, because she's our leading scorer and Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year and all of the accolades that she's, and an All-American. So it's all well-deserved. So I think people know about her now. I think more people know about us and what we're doing, but I don't think it's where we want it to be. I still think we have some work to do, and that's okay. We'll still play with that little chip, and I think that's okay for us to have that. But yeah, she's as talented as any guard in the country. I think our backcourt's still as good as any backcourt in the country, and hopefully we continue to have success as a program so we can elevate all of their profiles.
In the football program, they have something called Monday Night Football for some of the developmental people, like you're talking about, your lower tiers, to where they get a little bit more individualized attention on a more of an off day, maybe on the off weeks a little bit more. Do you have a little bit of a separate program or approach for some of the ladies that you're looking for maybe next year after?
Yeah, I think you do. For us, once we get into the season, it probably happens a little bit more because they're not getting the same amount of reps, or we have a game night and they don't play at all. Then we need them to work out, like football, I think is what you're talking about now. So they're getting about as many reps right now. And so we'll just, I split practices, so we don't put starters versus the non-starters, that type of stuff very often. We will start that process this week a little bit more, though, where we're playing that. We did it a little bit on Saturday for the first time. So everybody's getting pretty good reps right now. Once those reps do diminish, though, then we do need to, then we'll get them some extra work for sure.
you mentioned you wanted JJ, I think, to improve three-point shooting a little bit in this offseason. So how's she done that with that? And what was your emphasis on improvement for Jordan?
I think JJ shooting it was speed, a little bit more, like getting it off a little bit quicker, believing in it maybe just a hair. Sometimes it was catch, hesitate. She wants to drive first and then realize, oh, I'm open, I can shoot it. And so it was just catch and shoot first. So it was just really more of a mindset than we needed to go change her shot. We didn't really need to do that. I thought she started off a little slow. I think she started to pick it up and make more shots now. So I think we're in a good place there. The shot is quicker. I think she is looking for it a little bit more. So we like that piece of it. Jordan had some goals that she wanted to get a little bit better. She's been working on her mid-range a lot, so that was really important to her, not always finishing and getting to the rim at her size. And she's been much better doing that. And, of course, everybody wants to shoot it better. I think every kid, they want to be more consistent shooting or from the three. So, there were some of those. There's a couple more, but I'm going to give them to you because I want somebody to take it. But, we met with all of them. We do it at the postseason again a few weeks ago just to kind of make sure we're progressing at the rate that we want to.
Kaya, I mean, she's been your Swiss Army knife. I guess we probably underappreciate her, all the things she does. Where is she at in her career?
Yeah, and I'm really proud of her right now. She's, I think, taking a step. She's much more aggressive right now. She was the glue Swiss Army knife a year ago, and that was a complete and utter compliment for sure. But I've really wanted more from her because I think she's capable of being a scorer, being more aggressive. She's shooting it, looking to shoot more often. She's attacking a little bit more off the dribble than she did a year ago. She was okay getting lost or deferring at times, and kind of the challenge has been don't allow that to happen this year. And some of that's on me too as a coach. I just can't allow her to do that. And now that I know that, I can kind of go at her a little bit too. But now we've got her playing basically like 3 different positions. A year ago, we just couldn't do that. We didn't have the depth at some other positions, so she was going to play the 4 and play the majority of those minutes. And like I said, we've got her playing the 2. She plays the 3. She plays the top of the press. She guards everybody. She's that motor's fantastic. She's in great shape. So, yeah, really, really proud of where Kaya's at right now. I think you'll see a little bit of a different kid. I mean, she'll be the same glue kid, but she's added, I think, a little different mindset.
Another one on JJ, like last year when you first took over, one of the things you kind of talked about was trying to get her to talk more and become a vocal kind of person. Seems like she got a little bit comfortable with that as the season went on. So a year later now, is she a leader and in that part of it?
She's always a leader because of the talent, just because everybody respects and she works. She's in the gym all the time. She works. The kid works. She's a talent, so she leads from that standpoint. She's more vocal for sure than she was. We still got a little work to do. She knows that. But like if she's got her team and they're in a huddle, like she will be the voice. Yeah. And they're going to listen to her, and the eyes are locked on her. Now, if we get a full team together, she picks and chooses when she wants to say something. It's not all the time. We try to get her to talk a little bit more. When we're all together, she may pull away in that setting just a little bit. But no, she obviously has the respect of everybody in the program. And it's just for her, and she has goals to play in the WNBA and things like that. And you're going to have to be loud, and you got to be a vocal, and you got to be able to communicate. And she can do that, but she'll hold her teammates accountable when she needs to, and she has no problem letting them know when they didn't catch her pass or they need to be ready for her pass or whatever that looks like. But she's taken a step for sure.
Yeah, that wasn't always the case, though.
No, she was quiet as a mouse when I got here, so I have no idea what she was like as a freshman.
Coach, you mentioned Jordan's mid-range game. I guess I'm kind of curious, like on a more philosophical level. The game is changing so much where you see a lot of layups, a lot of threes. JJ has a great mid-range. Jordan's done it too. What's your philosophy on that? Mid-range, and how much do you want to see? How much is too much?
Yeah, no, good question. It's a part of the game. The analytics would tell you to take it out of the game. But I've always said I think the greatest players the Jordans and LeBrons and Kobes, they were killers at the mid-range. Like when you think of some of Jordan's iconic shots, it was the mid-range pull-up jumper late. And so with those kids, I want them to have it, and I want it to be in their bag, as our kids like to say now, right? It's their bag. And I want it in there, but it's teaching them when to use it and when not to. There's times it's a settle for me, and now you're not putting pressure on the defense. We're not getting to the rim. We're not getting into foul trouble, getting the other team into foul trouble. And then so it's showing them the efficiency of it. And a lot of times kids, parents, whomever, trainers think that they're shooting at a high rate, and then you actually give them the numbers and they're shooting in the 30%. You know, you're like, that's not a good shot. You know, if you're shooting it at 30%, we should not be taking that. And so we're charting it, trying to make sure it is the right shot, but when is the right time? You know, late in the game, I think there's times that the mid-range may be the best shot you're going to get. They ain't going to let you get to the rim. Or if you do, you're going up against our 6'5", 6'6" post kid that's going to be a difficult finish. And getting to mid-range where you can create space becomes a pretty good opportunity. So time and score dictate a lot. Personnel dictates a lot of it. We have some kids that take way too many of them, and so they get the whistle blown, and we have that conversation to make sure they know that we're not there yet. Let's keep working on it, and I think that's our job as coaches, is to develop all of the skill set. But yeah, we got to be careful how many we take. Got to be a little careful.
Who's your best rebounder?
That's a good question. When we met with them, we had about 5 of them that said they were going to lead the team in rebounding. But I don't know. Kaya probably is the most active on the boards. Tiers is pretty athletic rebounding. Jordan Thomas, the freshman, we keep it every day in practice. So every day I know who leads us in rebounding, so I'm kind of just going off of that. But Jordan Thomas leads us through our scrimmages in rebounding right now. But Kaya will be up there. Tiers will probably be up there, that group.
Willingness to go get the ball?
Yeah, you know, and it's a different defensive rebounding and offensive rebounding are 2 different skill sets, completely different skill sets. So some kids can rebound on the offensive end considerably better than they do on the defensive end. You know, but like one of our best rebounders, honestly, is Jordan Harrison. And you don't realize that, but like the kid can go get the basketball.
So how are heavy bigs been? I mean, you bring back some, but you have some new ones. So how's that working?
Yeah, no, well, we have depth. Again, that's where I need some of the separation, if I was being honest, is in some of those positions. I need some kids to take advantage of the opportunity. You know, there's 2 or 3 that we know will be in the mix, you know, and then I need a 4th for sure. At times we're probably going to need a 5th, and depending again on like kind of what we do with Kaya and where she gets the majority of her minutes, that may open up another, you know, opportunity for a post kid to get some more minutes. So we do have options. That's nice. So, you know, the bench is a great motivator. We haven't had it a ton yet, but it's coming. So when they sit over there, they'll start to realize pretty quickly that they got a little work to do. But we have options, and they're great kids. They're working hard. They're buying in. So we'll figure it out.
A question on Thomas. Going back to last year, people obviously got to see what Crooks could do at Iowa State. Thomas kind of has a similar kind of build. Is that a fair comparison to say that she might be able to do some of the stuff that Crooks did as a freshman?
Yeah, well, I think they played differently. Yeah, they're a little bit different, but there'll be some similarities for sure. But yeah, Jordan can score over both shoulders. She can step out and shoot it to 15, 17 feet for sure. Crooks was shooting some threes, so I don't think you'll see Jordan do that as much this year, but I told her in her meeting, like, that's the goal. Like, the release looks good. She's going to make some threes in her career at some point. I don't know if it'll be this year. You know, Jordan is learning how to play at the right pace, just like I'm sure Audie had to go through that adjustment a little bit, was just the pace at which college basketball is played. But, I mean, Jordan will bury you, and you're not going to get around her, and she's going to go finish. And, you know, if she doesn't, she'll probably get her offensive rebound and then finish the next one or end up at the free throw line. So I think you'll see some similarities, but they're a little different.
Are you seeing any kind of, like Rosiah, is she coming along better? Or?
Yeah, Zai's getting there for sure. You know, I think she's getting more confident just in the body. You know, and then it's, you know, her role's going to be different here than it was at SFA. You know, she got volume of shots, and she was our leading scorer, second leading scorer a lot of years. And she's not going to get that same volume here, but she's a take charge, you know, like she'll take charges, she dives on the floor, she's effort, she's a good passer. So I think she gets a little bit in trouble still thinking she's just not quite physically back to that player she was either. And so I think she gets herself in trouble a little bit thinking that she's still there. And she just got a little work to do to get back. But then she'll do the dive on the floor stuff and make the good passes. And obviously I've seen her do it at a high level, so I have trust and faith in her. But she's just got to kind of work through, you know, in her mind where she's at.
That change in role for her, I imagine that's something you guys probably discussed.
Yeah, well, no, she knows. We've discussed it, and we've been pretty clear on it. And, you know, in time it may change, but just for today, this is where we're at and where she's at. And she's got to keep getting in great shape and those types of things, too, to have the level of success we want her to.
She was a conference tournament MVP one year?
She was.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, she was, I don't remember what it was, like 24 against North Carolina in the tournament, 26 against Georgia Tech, something like that. Like, she's played big-time games and had big moments.
Thanks, everyone.
All right, thanks, guys.